Come on now, I got you. So let's go ahead and do a disturbing movie recap of the 2014 A24 film, Tusk. So these two F-faces, right, have this basic-ass podcast, and what they do is they invite a certain type of person on the show just to make fun of them. So one of the podcasters, Wallace, is flying to Canada to interview this kid who went viral for cutting off his own leg in a video. But Wallace and his best friend Teddy bully the kid so bad that Wallace doesn't even get to meet the kid. Instead, he arrives at the kid's funeral. Yeah, the kid decided he didn't want to be on Earth no more because the bullying was so bad, but that does not concern Wallace at all. He decides to go out to look for a new story. He's out in Canada searching. During the night, he goes to the bathroom. In the bathroom, he sees his flyer. The flyer's like, yo, if you need to stay at my place for like free, come on and I'll tell you some stories. Wallace is like, cool, that sounds safe. Let me just drive out to the middle of nowhere to this random guy's house. So he gets there and he meets this older man named Howard who's in a wheelchair. Howard seems strange, but whatever. So he offers some tea to Wallace and he starts telling his stories. So Howard begins to tell this story about a walrus named Mr. Tusk. However, there's something in that tea and Wallace eventually passes out during the storytelling. He wakes up, left leg cut off. Wallace is strapped up in a wheelchair and that's when we realize Howard can actually walk. Howard's like, hey man, I'm gonna turn you into a walrus, okay? I'm gonna turn you into Mr. Tusk. Wallace eventually is able to escape and get to his phone and he calls his girlfriend and his best friend, but nobody's answering. That's because they're sleeping together. However, Howard eventually finds Wallace and knocks Wallace out. The secret lovers eventually get the messages and that's when they realize, hey, Wallace is in trouble, we need to go to Canada. But they probably won't get there in time because Howard's already started the surgery to turn Wallace into a walrus. Howard has a walrus costume made out of human skin and he breaks off Wallace's legs and makes them the Tusk. So the secret lovers arrive in Canada, right? And they meet this private investigator who's been hunting down Howard for a minute now. The dude goes, yo, Howard's been cutting up people for years. I can't prove it, but I know your friend's in trouble. Meanwhile, Wallace is a full-on walrus and we find out why. Howard was saved from a shipwreck from a walrus and this walrus saved his life, but he has this guilt because he eventually killed the walrus and ate it. However, Howard feels guilty still about killing that Mr. Tusk. So all these years he's been killing people to recreate another Mr. Tusk because he ultimately wants to give that Mr. Tusk another shot at life. So Howard puts on his own walrus costume and decides to fight that new Mr. Tusk. So they fight and Wallace takes out Howard. But during the fight, his friends walk in and now they see Wallace and there's nothing left of him but a walrus. The movie ends with the cheating lovers visiting Wallace at a zoo.